morning, everybody. A happy Saturday morning to you. This is another ridiculously long video. We have a lot of real working royal stuff. Then we have day 2 of Harry and Meghan's Jordan tour. Then we get to the controversy because some very interesting information has come out from the UK embassy. Then, of course, we have all the memes. The claw made a reappearance. There's a lot. So let's just jump in and get busy. Oh, buckle up. Let's go. Well, let's continue and start this video by continuing with the Duchess of Edinburgh, who presented a box of dates to the Deputy County Commissioner when she got to the airport in Kenya. Then she met the Governor Ahmed Abdullah Gettr at the governor's office to discuss the challenges of climate change in the region there, with water and resource scarcity driving instability. Then on the same day, Sophie sat and spoke with women peace builders who are working with the UK's Deris Wanag, is how it's said, which translates to good neighborliness, and reinvent programs in that area in Kenya. Now, Sophie also heard how the Village Savings and Loan Association of 21 members pools resources to support one another and also to invest, grow, and weather changes. Before meeting the savings and loan people, Sophie visited a female-led and owned business group where she bought a flask from their shop. Sophie also on the same day attended a wreath-laying ceremony at the world's smallest Commonwealth War grave. There are only 3 graves in that town in Kenya, and the card, when you see the picture of it, has her and Edward's coat of arms on it. Now, again, I'm not sure of the dates and all of this happened in what order, but we're just going to keep going. Sophie then met some guests during a Women in Leadership reception, which took place at the British High Commissioner's residence on February 25th in Nairobi, Kenya. A lot of the discussions were about Kenya's forests and water towers and how women were leading conservation, restoring the ecosystems, and protecting communities. What you have is a gathering of very distinguished female leaders from across Kenya. One of the other things that they discussed were leading efforts to combat technology-facilitated gender-based violence through awareness campaigns, policy advocacy, capacity building, and, practical engagements. Sophie gave a speech where they talked about things like sustained implementation, accountability, and how men should be included in these conversations, and that principles should really closely align with each other. Now, also on that day, Sophie met survivors of the 2007, 2008, and 2017 Kenya election-related violence and advocates supporting survivors. On a different day, she's wearing a different outfit. Sophie went for a high-level dinner where there was a lot of talk focused on advancing the women, peace, and security agenda. So as usual, a big thank you to Remoulade Sauce. That's the person on Twitter, for those of you who are wondering, who puts together all, of these sheets and shows us everything that Sophie and the other royals are wearing when they're out and about. Let's move on. Next up, we have Edward, Sophie's fabulous husband, the Duke of Edinburgh, patron of the National Youth Theatre of Great Britain. He attended the Repertory Company performance of Dracula at the National Youth Theatre. This took place on February 25th. Now, for the 25th, again, the royals were super busy. You had Princess Anne, who was at a joint services dinner with military awards. So there were guests and honors there. It was the service awards that were presented by past Master Carmen, HRH, the Princess Royal. So she was seen arriving for this and she was seen leaving. It's the, I hope I'm saying this right, the Plastiers Hall, and it's a livery hall in the City of London. Now, that same day during the day, Anne was at the Ocean Sciences meeting at the Scottish Event Campus in Glasgow, where she met with scientists and leaders from across the globe ocean community and learned about the latest research in advancing our understanding of the ocean and its role in society. Absolutely fabulous. I love her. Let's move on to Camilla. I had no idea this was a thing in the UK, but apparently she's applied to the local authority to cut down a tree on her private residence because it's deteriorating and blocking light from younger plants on the ground. So because the house, however, sits in a conservation area, she has to get consent before removing it. Wow. All right, let's continue. Continuing with Camilla, she was having a get-together for the finalists of the BBC 500 Words competition. They were in the grand reception room, and here comes Paddington Bear 4 years after he did that skit with the Queen. So he was introduced to the Queen by Alex Jones. Paddington, they're saying, curtsied. She thanked him for traveling all that way and started talking about marmalade sandwiches. This reception was hosted by the presenters of BBC's The One Show. There were 50 finalists chosen after the competition received 45,000 submissions from writers across the UK. Very interesting. Camilla went around, she spoke with all of her guests, and it looked like everybody had a really great time. Good for her. All right, let's continue on. We have King Charles next. He was visiting Baker Barracks on a peninsula. The island is the headquarters of the 7th Air Defence Group, which provides all of the UK's ground-based air defence assets, as well as a equipment demonstration. Of course, he had to take a look through the multiple launcher, although he didn't fire it. He spoke to deployed personnel via a live link. He thanked them for their efforts. And then at some point, he saw another demonstration, and then he was pictured laughing, meeting with families of personnel abroad during the visit. He even got to slice a cake that had the blue and yellow centaur design on it, which happens to be the insignia of the 7th Air Defense. Looks like the king was having a good time. Looks like everybody was having a good time. All right, we're going to move on to William, the Prince of Wales. He visited the Francis Crick Institute, which is a pioneering British center for research in biomedicine. They're about to have their 10-year anniversary later this year. Now, this was William's first public appearance since admitting he was not in a calm state with everything going on with Andrew. And as William was walking through, he got a round of applause from people. I just think people were so excited to see him and know that, you know what I'm saying? He was out there doing his work. As he started his tour, he walked through the lobby. He looked up at all of these people, and here's what he heard. I'm just going to play this little snippet for you. William toured the facility's cutting-edge electron microscope suite, where experts use sophisticated imaging technology to examine biological structures at atomic scale, which reveals details invisible through regular microscopes. He was given a guided tour. He had the chance to prepare a sample himself to expose its internal composition. He also spent time with scientists investigating brain function, including research into how humans process sensory information and the relationship between the immune system and mental health. Researchers shared their work on olfactory processing and the biological underpinnings of mental health conditions. He also met a team studying how TB evades the body immune defense and persists within human cells. You know, TB claims millions of lives annually. Interesting stuff. Now, before he left, of course, he signed a book, and there were some pictures there of his grandparents. Love it. Let's move on to Sarah. They're saying that if she ever leaves the UAE and returns to the UK, she more than likely will be arrested and brought in for questioning, just like Andrew did. That her trip to the UAE is probably for survival. And as for Andrew, apparently he's going to be housebound with just his dogs for company, because you know how he was regularly seen riding around the Windsor estate. Apparently he's been told not to do that at Wood Farm because he can still be caught on camera. So they told him no grinning and smiling on the back of a horse, stay inside. And what about Beatrice and Eugenie? Well, it's being said that Harry and Meghan plan on using them to try to hurt the royal family some more, that they're actually telling them that they would benefit from speaking for themselves rather than allowing speculation to define them. In other words, another Oprah show, that they're in a good position to connect them with publishers and agents so they can make money off the situation. Yep. And so people are asking now, what's going to happen with Meghan and Eugenie, now that all of this trouble has stirred up? Eugenie is the only one who's gone to California to visit them with Jack Brooksbanks and has apparently stayed in touch with Harry, which, let's face it, in the end, that's kind of worked against her because the royals know she's probably giving them information. So I think that friendship's gone kaput a while ago. Especially after Meghan overshadowed Eugenie on her wedding day by announcing her pregnancy. Yeah, that's over. Now, really quick before we dive into it, for those who don't know, Chelsea Davy has just announced she and her husband are pregnant with their third child. These two live on an island, waterfront, living the life Harry wishes he had. All right, so here's the next thing that happens. It's the next day, day 2 of their tour. So this Dr. Tedros, who we now know is not really a doctor, went with Harry and Meghan on their visit to the National Center for the Rehabilitation of Addicts. Let me interject here what I was trying to say before about the body language. Harry got out of the car on one side, Meghan on the other. Meghan came around the car, and this is usually when she grabs onto Harry, but it would appear from the pictures that Harry walked on without her and didn't wait for her to grab onto him. Good for Harry. While they were there, they were briefed on Jordan's efforts to support recovery through organized medical care, psychological and social support, and reintegration programs that help people, rebuild their lives with some sense of dignity. We knew it wasn't going to be long before we saw the claw and the touching start up again. Watch Meghan's hand here. Whoop! She puts it up, she hits Harry, then they start going down some stairs, and again, she had to reach out, grab his arm, and guide him down the stairs. We knew this was going to happen eventually. She just can't keep her hands off this man. So anyway, they go into the rehab center. Now, of course, Meghan is trying to follow the conversation, but you can tell from the way she's looking over at Doctor Who there, that she's just not liking that being the center of attention. Also, I couldn't help but notice that she went a little heavy on the bronzer. There are some other pictures in here that really show it, but yeah. So at one point they were asked to put write some notes. Harry, who has his own drug issue by his own admission, writes, "It's okay to not be okay. Trust each other." And then Meghan writes down her pearls of wisdom. Meghan, of course, she wrote in cursive and she put the swirlies on it and she wrote, "Congratulations on your dedication to your care. Wishing you continued healing and happiness." Now, at one point, Harry was talking to some of the men that were there. Obviously, because not all of these men speak English. Harry's talking in this one picture right here. I'm looking at Harry. Harry doesn't look okay. Something's going on with him on this trip. He does not look well at all, in my opinion. I agree with what the other article said. He looks dead behind the eyes. As it always is for Meghan, it was very performative, clapping, making sure, the seal clap, making sure everybody could see her, going out of her way to smile and keep an eye on the camera. Again, she forgot to use the toner or the bronzer on her hands. So her hands are white on white and her face is really dark. I'm telling you. But this whole thing was supposed to be to promote mental health. That was one of the themes of their visit. So when they were done with that, and she was done showing off how bad she forgot to bronze her hands, the two of them headed off to the World Central Kitchen. They're apparently on the front lines with food relief coordination in Gaza. As I said before, I don't see them meeting with the former hostages or the children who were orphaned in the attack on Israel. No, it's just, what's going on with this. So Now, of course, they saw how some of the food kits were put together, and Meghan did her best to try to look sympathetic and sad, her acting skills, shaking her head, looking like she totally understands everything that everybody is saying while they're there, when the truth is she really, I think she's just along for the ride. You know what I'm saying? That's just my personal opinion. Just as an FYI, in case you guys don't know, they made one donation to World Central Kitchen in 2021. And since then, they claim that they have partnered up with World Central Kitchen. No, that's not how it works. So Jose Andres started it. Jose Andres is the driving force behind it. Harry and Meghan gave one donation, and since then they've taken half of the credit for the work that this man has done. But that's typical for Harry and Meghan. That's apparently the last thing they contributed was some recipes to help support the organization. Yeah, I'm sure. Interestingly enough, it was brought up again, the fact that Harry and Meghan did not meet any members of the Jordanian royal family. They did not meet with King Abdullah. They did not meet with the prince. They wouldn't have, because they're not working royals. They were there in a private capacity. However, there was a trip to the King Hussein Cancer Center, again during their final day in Jordan. And while they were there, they were hosted by Princess Gettr Talal. Now, she serves as chairwoman of the board of trustees of the Cancer Foundation, and she is married to Prince Talal bin Muhammad, who is first cousin to King Abdullah. So while Harry and Meghan were at the medical facility, they met with patients and their relatives. They expressed their sympathies to those who were infected, and the engagement was supposed to highlight how ongoing regional conflicts have placed significant strain on healthcare systems, with the couple apparently seeing the challenges faced by those that are seeking treatment. Now, the Jordanian Hashemite Fund for Human Development was established through royal decree in 1977, and it operates for social welfare. Princess Basma has led the organization since it was founded and has guided it into a nonprofit entity in 1985, and it consolidated with other bodies. So, yes, Harry and Meghan met this woman and her daughter. That's the closest she got to royalty during this entire trip. But I think they were planning for something else. Now, I believe that Harry and Meghan were trying to meet some royals, because this was found. There was a note on his desk about trying to meet Queen Rania. Yep. Now, a big thank you to Princess Carparkle on Twitter for showing us what the jacket that Meghan was wearing was supposed to look like, as opposed to what it looked like on her. It's the weirdest thing. I digress. Now let's go back to the hospital visit, because this was some of the best performative stuff from Meghan. She couldn't help herself. There's a little boy, and he says he has leukemia while they're talking. And so Meghan decides that after watching the mother get upset, because, she's a mom. Don't forget that. She's a mom. She decides to get up and go over, and instead of comforting the little boy, she decides to comfort the mom. And then later on, she's hugging this woman while Harry's pointing, what is going on here? What is this? I mean, it's, again, performative to try to show that they're fabulous people who love everybody. It's too much. Now, it wouldn't be a tour, and yes, they used other people's children. Once again, Harry's shoved to the back. I couldn't help but notice. But of course, while they leave their own children at home, they do this performative thing using other people's children. Personally, I just find that to be so tacky and just beyond terrible. And something else I noticed, during one of the meetings, everybody is looking at the person speaking, except of course for Meghan, who's looking right at the camera. Anybody shocked by that? Because I'm not. Now, you would think that that would be the end of the tour, but as usual, Harry and Meghan didn't vet everywhere they were going. Remember, they have financially backed these organizations. Well, one of the organizations they went to on this tour was that youth center run by the NGO, but their listed staff, come to find out, have shared posts glorifying Hamas and Hamas terrorists. It wouldn't be a trip if Harry didn't give an interview at the end where, by the way, he said that he refused to speak about Andrew or Israel. These are some of the most leading questions. Harry was fed the information. You know what I'm saying? Listen to this.
They are walking a diplomatic tightrope. Prince Harry's people did not want him answering questions about Israel. The Prince did not want to answer questions about his uncle, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Look, I understand you don't wish to talk about your family, your uncle, things back in London. You're here because you don't want to distract from the work that you're doing on the WHO and on Gaza. So firstly, why are you here in Jordan? Why is it so important to you?
I think having spoken to Dr. Tedros for many months now, well, years, but specifically months in the lead up to this trip, it was really important for us to highlight the incredible work that Jordan does for this region. I think the work's been going on for decades, but more so recently as being a humanitarian hub for the Middle East, and especially everything that's going on in Gaza and also Syria as well. So I think the world should be incredibly grateful for what Jordan is doing and the moral leadership that it's showing for the world right now.
Yesterday, we were with you at a hospital where children are still being brought in who have only recently been injured in Gaza. How important is it that the world continues to pay attention here?
I think it's important for everybody. It's not just for me. It's not just for Dr. Tedros. I think the entire world has spoken up, and there's a lot of stuff in the news. It goes at an incredible pace, and what's been happening in that region has been going on for a long time, and it drops out of the news. So I think it was a really important time for us to collaborate and come here and shine a light and focus on the very real humanitarian catastrophe that has happened and continues.
We were with you this morning at a charity that is getting food into Gaza and is feeding 1 million people a day, but they're saying they're not getting anywhere near enough food. Medical aid isn't getting in, journalists aren't getting in. Would you like to see an increase in all those things going in? Would you like to see independent journalists being let into Gaza?
I think again the world has spoken many times. So I think yes, everything that I've heard and everything that I've seen, especially from World Central Kitchen, what we heard this morning on the live link, was that the aid corridors need to be opened. They're currently not, and I know Dr. Tedros has already talked extensively about food and medical supplies. The basic needs for full access for humanitarian organisations to be able to deliver that aid to the people that need it the most.
Dr. Tedros, Duke of Sussex, thank you very much.
Now, they asked him some questions. He's like, yeah, they need help. Yeah, they need aid. A poll was done, by the way. Did people think this tour was a success? And the answer is no. On top of all that, when it came out that Harry and Meghan were hosted by the British government, it was ugly, and they're being criticized. Even former Tory minister Tim Loughton said to the Daily Mail it was entirely inappropriate that they were guests of Mr. Hall since they claim to be private citizens, and the Foreign Office has refused to comment. However, somebody in the inside came out and said that the British ambassador did not invite Harry and Meghan to the reception, which marked a meal eaten by Muslims at sunset to break their fast. The invitation was actually to Dr. Tedros. And so he asked Harry and Meghan to come along as his plus one. So no, the UK did not invite Harry and Meghan to this event. And it was Harry and Meghan on their own press release that said they were going to go eat dinner at the UK residence. So it was done to make it seem like it was legitimate, like this whole thing they did was legitimate and it was in concert with the UK, which is a lie. Now, when you think about it, remember the British ambassador, apparently it was reported in People magazine, Harry and Meghan's go-to magazine, that he thanked Harry and Meghan. But look at what he actually said. Your visit, your support, your appreciation of the efforts that the United Nations and the World Health Organization, blah, blah, blah. I think he said that to the whole room, not to Harry and Meghan. And I think People magazine reported it again to give Harry and Meghan legitimacy. Now, one other thing that's come out, very interesting, one of the ambassadors over in Jordan put out that he noticed what we noticed, that the children at this hospital were being used as props. But apparently he wanted Harry to ban Israel from the Invictus Games, and Harry didn't do it. But beyond that, he's right. They did use their children, their sick children, as props for a public relations operation. All right, you guys, it's meme time. A big thank you to everybody who contributed. There were so many from so many different people. I don't have all the names, but everybody, thank you. Oh, wow. I know that was a lot, so I'm going to watch your comments. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Then go down into the description box where you'll find the link to my Twitter, my Gettr, my Rumble, my email, a link to my second channel, a link to my father's book, which is up for sale on Amazon, and a link to my Amazon wish list, as well as a physical address. For those of you who have donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.